So yeah, I mean, if you don't do it for a living, you know, you could do it for like however many times, hours, minutes, seconds you want to do in this. You know, that's the way it works. And welcome back to the Internet Podcast.
Yes.
We have a synthesizer now.
That sounded worse than I thought it would. Anyway, it's me. It's he. It's your favorite C. It's Colton. And then I'm here with my co-host, and just in terms of this, I'm going to call him my special K.
Oh!
My very special K.
I got named after cereal.
Yeah, he's a serial killer. Be careful, everyone.
Anyway, so as per the usual of you know, all the times we've done this, all two of them, we're just gonna wing it. Because I think that some of the best conversations are the ones that you never plan. I don't know.
That's literally the point of this podcast. This podcast, not scripted, ramblings, everything. Makes you laugh. If it makes you cry, if it makes you go, what the fuck am I listening to? Then that's good. Any reaction is a good reaction, in my opinion.
Yeah. Any reaction is a welcome one. Unless it's, fuck these guys, I'm never listening to them again. Then our precious little feelings will be shattered.
Hey, you know what? I don't fucking care.
That's true.
If they don't want to listen, they don't want to listen.
Well, that's true. I mean, you can't force somebody to do something like this. I mean, you can't force someone to be relaxed. Because then that defeats the purpose of it. It's completely counterintuitive and counterproductive. Forcing someone to relax, that's also kind of an oxymoron, isn't it?
It kind of sounds like one, yeah.
It's like saying act natural.
Yeah, which is very hard for a lot of people, because when you tell them to act natural, they tense up, and then they start acting really stupid half the time.
Yeah, the second you begin to focus on being normal. The second you have to focus on being normal is the second you lose your, I want to say normality. That's not really a word, is it? Formality is a word. Normality is not, as far as I know.
Yeah, but formality is, of course, the wrong word
Formality.
In this context. But I mean, hey, being normal sucks anyway. It's better to be weird. Being weird and just out there and spacey. Well, not spacey. Being spacey is kind of different than what we're talking about. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, though, I happily embrace my weirdness at this point. I used to be embarrassed by the fact that I
used to be embarrassed all the time. In fact, to be honest, sometimes I still am.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Same here.
These past 2 years, I've always just I've started embracing my weirdness more, and I found it to be nicer because I'm able to be myself more.
Right? That's what I mean. It's very liberating in its own right. The second you stop trying to be like anyone in particular, and you just let it flow. And that's part of the reason why I let whatever comes out of me, that's what comes out of me, and that's who I am. And I kind of like that. And it's kind of like what I touched upon the intro of the very first episode, how I said I rarely filter myself. It kind of ties into that, on account of the fact that the more you filter yourself, almost the more you lose your character, I want to say. What makes you special. Now, there are to certain degrees, filtering is good. You don't want to be hurling racial slurs around.
Chris.
But the thing is, I try not to filter just the raw ideas, more or less. Like, when we came up with the Hitler Whisk Wasp.
Oh, God.
That was one of the most prime examples of me not filtering anything. And that just came out of the blue like that.
That was one of the weirdest things I've ever heard anyone say. Like, and like, this is coming from a guy who's known Special K here for half his life. It was by far in like the top 5 of like weirdest things I've ever heard come out of this guy's mouth. I did not get it. I don't even know how we got to it. I don't remember what the context of the entire conversation was. All of a sudden, he just said Hitler Whisk Wasp, and I'm just like, what? Who? Why? Where? What? It made no sense.
Oh.
And I still have no idea, like, how that came a thing, and I don't know. It's one of the weird points, many weird points of our friendship.
I've never even, I can't explain it myself. It was one of those things that just came to me out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, actually, some of my most interesting ideas were the ones that came to me out of the blue. And one of them, I don't know if I ever told you about this. I had this weird freaking kind of like Tim Burton-y idea for a stop motion animation.
Okay.
I don't remember what it was going to be called, but it was basically the basic setting. It was a shell blasted city, kind of a post-apocalyptic type thing, and there's almost no living inhabitants left except for a guy in a suit with the head of a cod. His name is Mr. Cod, and
No, I definitely remember you mentioning this before.
okay, and then his companion, Danny Longlegs. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a half man, half spider. He's basically got these giant spider legs growing out of his weird, disheveled head. And they hate each other. These two characters absolutely despise each other. Mr. Cod carries a suitcase with, I think it was like bug spray or spider spray. And Danny Longlegs, he's all entangled with fishing line and hooks. And they have physical reasons to hate each other, but I was also coming up with a backstory as to why they actually hate each other as people. But what's interesting is that while they're in the city, Danny Longlegs and Mr. Cod, they're basically forced to work together because they are consistently hunted, or they're constantly hunted by these three entities. One of them looks like a mummy with swords for hands, and it basically has can shoot like this, I guess what you would almost, basically is akin to a cannonball out of its chest. That's one of them. One of the things hunting them. I don't know what I was going to call it. Another one was for those of you who know what a tardigrade is, or aka a water bear, tiny little microscopic animals that are almost impossible to kill. It's amazing. Look up information on tardigrades. They're fascinating little things. One of the hunters was basically a giant tardigrade in blue. It was like kind of a bright blue armor. It was like this futuristic kind of armor, and it could float around and fire lasers at them. And then the third hunter. This one was creepy, and this one, it came to me in the form of just an image in my head. That's a lot of my ideas come to me. It was basically, imagine a walking fridge. Bear with me for a second. A walking fridge. The door is held shut by a belt.
Oh, jeez.
And it has two guns. Two guns that are basically attached to this like machine that it's carrying on its back, like a backpack. One of the guns looks like a welder MIG gun. The other one looks like a welder's stick welding gun. And that came to me, I don't remember where that came from, but they look like welding tools, but they're not. They're actually weapons. Now, the reason the door is held shut with a belt is because at one point I'm thinking somehow the belt is going to get torn or it's going to snap. The door is going to fly open, and within it, you see that this walking fridge is actually just armor. It's basically just thrown together armor, and it's actually operated by this thing on the inside, but it's all you see as soon as the door opens, it's nothing but flesh and teeth. And then suddenly it all becomes clear as to why that door was belted shut, because behind that frame is something utterly horrific. There's no eyes, nothing. It's just a giant freaking mouth, just full of teeth. And so, yeah, I have no idea what the actual premise was supposed to be. I don't know if this whole idea was supposed to be some kind of enormous metaphor for something, but I thought this all started coming to me. I think it was about a year ago, and I had to write this down. I am absolutely prone to forgetting ideas, no matter how wonderful, no matter how crazy or weird they are. And I don't know what to call this, but it's Mr. Cod and Danny Longlegs. They hate each other, but they have to work together with each other to escape this weird post-apocalyptic city full of weird, freakish Tim Burton hunter things. I don't know what I'm talking about at this point.
How about you call it? What the fuck kind of drugs are you on when you go into creative mode?
That's a question.
Look, I am a very creative person too, like in general too. Like half the time when I'm at work, I'm not actually even focusing on work. I'm just kind of thinking in my head of stuff. I've never in my wildest dreams thought of a fucking fridge or a fucking cod head thing. Like, what the fuck are you on when you decide to write these things?
On another note, the fridge is also red. You ever
no one cares about the goddamn color of the fridge anymore.
Have you ever seen a red fridge in your life?
No, but no one cares. Chris, what the fuck are you on when you do this?
I don't know. At least I'm not Ed Gein or Ted Bundy.
Okay, let's not talk about them again. We already talked about them in the first goddamn episode. What the fuck? Why? I question our friendship, our roommate status constantly. And now I'm questioning it more since I'm learning more about this story than what I even knew before.
I couldn't remember how much I'd actually told you.
From what I remember, you only told me about Mr. Cod.
Really?
You might tell me about the long legs guy. I don't remember the fucking fridge though.
Oh man. Also, another thing I forgot to add.
Oh god, here we go. Here we go, people.
There's another tardigrade in the story, another water bear, but this one is giant and it's multicolored. It can phase in and out of existence and it's wearing a bowler hat. Now, the reason this one exists is because every time Danny Longlegs and Mr. Cod get too far away from each other, it basically phases into existence, teleports them back within reasonable distance of each other, and then goes away. It exists to keep them together and to keep them together as a team, and they hate it. They absolutely despise each other, but this thing won't leave them alone. It's forcing them to work together to get out of the city.
Oh boy.
Still not sure what to call it. I mean, you gave me a title, and I think it's actually quite fitting.
Yeah, I gave you a perfect one. What the hell kind of shit are you on?
I get asked that a lot when I talk about the dreams I have, because you think that's random. My dreams, they don't make a lick of sense. You at least have badass storylines and characters. Mine are absolute acid trips. I can't even think of a full one that I had because they're so weird. I just don't know.
We could literally do like so many podcasts about Kelly's weird acid trip shit. I think we might save that for another one though. We've already gotten
I could talk for hours.
Yeah, we've already gotten your great story about the fucking fridge out of the way here.
The fridge hunter.
Jesus freaking Christ. Alright, well I think that's enough about Kelly's weird creativeness when he's on drugs, apparently.
Yeah. And keep in mind, I've been completely sober my whole life in terms of drugs. The only substances I've ever abused were alcohol and coffee. And alcohol I don't frequently abuse because I had a bad experience.
I had a very bad experience. It was really bad.
Yeah. Colton has seen me hungover, and it's not fun. It's pure suffering.
And this is why I have chosen not to drink the substance.
That's good.
As of at least right now. Although there have been many times in my life, most of which at work, during a shitty day, where I have... Shut up, phone. Where I have opted to be like, you know what? I'm going to fucking go out and just like get a six-pack or something. I wanted to do that many times.
Yeah.
And I have always, thankfully, had the self-restraint not to because I like to save money.
That's good. Yeah.
So.
Well, it's like I've said. I like to put it into perspective that even if you buy one six-pack a month, let's say $7-8 a month times 12.
Whoops.
Whoa. Times 12. What is that? 12, 24, 48. $96 a year, and that's just for the basic six-pack once a month, mind you. It's not a lot, but over time it adds up. That's money that could have been spent on food or clothes or gasoline or something. And I'm not saying to not do that because that would be hypocritical, but for those of you that are thinking about starting, or those of you that are thinking of stopping, or those of you that just weren't sure. Now you have another way of looking at it, I suppose, unless you already thought of it.
I mean, hey, everyone can do what the hell they want.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, this whole thing has no... Obviously, most people are probably just be like, hey, like, fuck you can't tell me what to do. Right. And hey, we're not telling... Phone, shut up. We're not, we're not telling you guys, what to do. You guys can live your life. We're just here to, impart some wisdom on you. Just have, like, the more you know thing.
Yeah.
Really quickly.
The more you know.
Close enough. That was great.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah. What were we just talking about? I feel like we were on a roll. And now that rolling has stopped because the boulder has hit a town. And that town is getting destroyed by said boulder. People are running around. They're freaking out, and they don't know
Some
what's
some
going
people are
on.
crushed. Guts are all over the floor.
It's disgusting. It's
It-
horrific.
it's red. It's people are throwing up.
It's red like the
It's
synthesizer.
really bad. Yeah.
Hey,
It's really something else, you know.
it's something out of a Quentin Tarantino film. It's something where
Oh God.
you got this happy ragtime music playing over top of people getting like eviscerated by a freaking rock.
hmm
Wait, no, not eviscerated.
Oh, actually, you
That
know
doesn't
what?
make sense.
Actually, you know what? I actually do have a question for you to kind of keep this ball rolling. Speaking of, well, not Quentin Tarantino specifically, but directors in general.
Quentin Tarantino.
Yes, Quentin Tarantino. Who is? I know you're not like a huge movie buff or anything, but like who's like one of
Kinda
your who's like one of your like favorite directors?
Oh, directors.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
I love. I've only seen a couple of his films, but I'd say David Lynch is definitely up there. One of my favorite movie directors, and Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock is awesome.
Love Alfred Hitchcock for sure.
That guy is the master of suspense. I mean, well, he was, but David Lynch is still alive. So I guess in terms of living directors, I'd have to say David Lynch because for those of you out there who haven't watched Eraserhead, if you want, kind of tying into the weirdness that is the subject of my brain, if you want a glimpse into the way my brain operates, if you want a glimpse into what I see in my head at night, watch that film. Watch Eraserhead by David Lynch. It is fascinating. Excuse me.
Don't die over there, bro.
It is fascinating how little sense that movie makes. It is so weird. And part of the reason for me it was so freaky and surreal the first time I watched it, emphasis on surreal, because when I was watching it, I realized the level of randomness and the overall atmosphere of that film is exactly what most of my dreams feel like. This weird kind of brooding, but at the same time safe atmosphere. It's really, really, really hard to describe.
Yeah.
But for those of you who haven't seen David Lynch's Eraserhead, it was one of the first films he ever made, or the first, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and watch it. You will be freaked out, not because it's scary, but because it makes so little sense. It's almost impossible to not be unnerved by it. Also, I love Lost Highway. That was kind of a cool movie. That movie made a little bit more sense.
Yeah, you know, I remember you mentioning Eraserhead like a long time ago. I still haven't seen it myself, but I remember you mentioning how just fucking kind of weird.
Don't do
it
drugs
was.
and watch that movie because.
I won't. Don't worry about that.
But the thing is, that movie made me question my own sobriety, and I mean in terms of drug use, not alcohol use, because alcohol does not distort your mind in the way that movie does. I was actually wondering if someone had spiked my water or something.
Jeez.
I watched that movie and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It was something else. What's your favorite director?
Oh God, I don't know.
I mean, there's a whole slew of them.
I've
part.
seen so many movies of varying directors. I've always liked Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
Always loved the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yep.
Stanley Kubrick. I
Yo.
fucking love Stanley Kubrick.
How could I forget the Kubrick? His movies are great. He had an IQ of over 200.
Yeah, I don't know. It like a lot of the times I don't remember the director more. I tend to remember the movie more than I do the director.
Yeah, me too.
I
like Michael Bay.
which is kind of shitty. I remember Taika Waititi,
Yeah.
the director of Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah,
I fucking
yeah.
love him. Like the only movie of him that I've actually watched is Ragnarok, but like.
My name's Cool. This is Mink.
I remember like reading more about him and stuff in general, and he just seems like such a pretty cool dude.
Yeah.
And in terms of a weird fucked up movie, jumping on your bandwagon there, I'm gonna throw one into the ye old pile here, and it's one that I mentioned to you that I watched like a couple of weeks ago. I think it was like just before Christmas or something. Antichrist.
Oh,
The
yeah.
one that a coworker of mine, just for the sake of anonymity. I can't say that word.
And then
Yeah, for the sake of privacy, I won't say any names, but
okay.
they lent it. They lent the movie Antichrist to me, and they were telling me that it's really fucked up, and it's just it has Willem Dafoe in it. I don't remember who the director was. I don't remember that, which is really unfortunate. But and I went into it. They told me how like kind of messed up it was, and like I went into it. And I was like, it's like, yeah, it can't be that bad. No, it's probably the most fucked up movie I've actually seen in my 22 years of living.
Oh,
it's
damn.
I'm not gonna say any of the scenes.
Okay.
Because a lot, like, I'm just gonna straight up say this: probably a quarter to half the movie is porn, basically.
Damn.
That's the length of it. I'm gonna say,
but not like fun to watch porn, like scary porn.
No, it's a lot more. I mean, the beginning is a bit more like calm,
yeah,
and stuff. But as it progresses, it just kind of gets worse and worse, and it's like, oh, I don't want to watch this movie anymore. But I kept watching it, and yeah, the ending is. Fuck. Again, I don't want to say anything. If you're really that curious. Feel free to like try going to like a video rental place or something and seeing if you can find it, because I don't believe it's on Netflix or anything. So feel free to try finding it. I don't recommend it, especially if you're like easily startled.
Oh, are there a lot of jump scares
and stuff? Well, it's not so much jump scares, but there's like a lot to do with like sort of like mental stuff, and just a lot of bad shit happens.
I vaguely remember you telling me about how the movie goes. I forget what is it even about, or are you willing to disclose that?
Basically what happens is in the beginning, again, I don't want to spoil too much, but in the beginning what happens is there's a husband, wife, and son, and the son ends up getting killed.
Right.
And then the rest of the movie is basically the wife trying to attempt to recover from that traumatizing thing, and then the husband is like a therapist, and he has chosen to try and help her over like any other therapist or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like going through that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I again, I don't want to say too much more, but
yeah,
because it's honestly a movie that you'd want to experience yourself. And
okay.
It's one of those things where it's like you'd want to have someone else. Or not have someone else try to explain it to you.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those things where you won't fully understand it unless you actually watch it yourself.
So just experience it.
Yeah, but
don't explain. Don't show. Don't tell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like actually see it for yourself. Don't try to get someone to explain it to you, because sure you might understand some of it, but it'd be a lot easier to understand if you actually like watched it itself.
That's kind of like Eraserhead, but the only difference is it's confusing to watch it and confusinger to explain it.
Yeah. I can fully see
it's
that.
kind of on that plane where I feel like that movie, unless you're on drugs, actually, now that I think about it, if you're on drugs, it might start to make sense.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it requires, which means that
Maybe.
that movie is probably never going to make sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of taking drugs because I'm more afraid of how my body is going to react to it, but mostly how my mind is going to react to it. That's why I've been told if you have anxiety, don't take mushrooms and don't smoke pot or anything like that, because it can make your anxiety worse. But I've had other people tell me the opposite, that it can help it get better. And with pot, there are so many strains of it. There are so many different kinds that have been bioengineered to perform different tasks. Mm-hmm. So, of course, some are going to calm your anxiety, so that's a little different. But yeah. I've been told with acid and shrooms, they say, because I'm not worried about being addicted. Acid and shrooms don't have any addictive properties to them, as far as I know. They just make you hallucinate. But I've heard many instances of people having really bad trips. They see some really scary things. Yeah. And it makes them not want to do it. Kind of like salvia. I out of curiosity one time, it's the most powerful hallucinogenic that we currently know exists. And out of curiosity one time, I looked up, I specifically searched salvia stories to see, I wanted to hear about what people had seen. And 90% of the titles started with, Yeah, I did salvia. Once. And some of these stories, one of the stories was this one guy thought he was a giant potato chip being put through a meat grinder, and he came out as a sausage. And there was another trip that somebody had where they thought for the whole time, because the trip only lasts, I think, 20 minutes, they say usually. This person thought throughout the entire trip, they thought they were a giant, colorful piece of plastic, wondering if there was more to life than being a giant, colorful piece of plastic. That was the whole trip for them. Then one of the guys, because for those of you who don't know, was it 2 years ago already? Yeah, it was 2 years. Good Lord, it was already 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was in trade school. And I remember it. One of the for the sake of privacy, I'm not going to name any names, but like, man, if you're listening to this, you know who you are, and I miss your stories. They're really funny. But one of the guys in the class, he talked about how he did salvia, and if I remember the story correctly, basically what had happened, the trip on the outside it only lasted like 20 minutes, but in his mind, that salvia trip lasted literally thousands of years. Thousands of years he spent in his mind, he felt. And he spent thousands of years as hundreds of different alien species living out, basically from what I remember him describing, he lived out multiple full-length lives as multiple different alien species on different planets. And so in his mind, he thought he was gone for like thousands of years, I think it was, if I remember the story correctly. And then when he came back to, he was like, okay, yeah, no, never touching that thing again.
Jeez.
And
definitely sounds like a trip.
Yeah, that was crazy sounding. And again, he, just like the other titles on the internet, he was one of those people where he said, yeah, I did salvia once. Mm-hmm. Never touching it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I miss the welding class days. Those dudes were cool. They were fun.
Yeah, you've always told me fun stories from that.
Yeah. I mean, the actual welding in and of itself, we did a lot of repetitious and tedious exercises, which really started to grate on my patience. But the people in the class made it worth it, I think. And it was a weird situation. Our teacher, because we were, when it comes to welding, C ticket is the lowest ticket, B is the next level up, A ticket is like when you're working on like oil rigs and stuff. That's like highest level you can get. And it was weird because our teacher, you could tell he wasn't used to teaching C ticket students. He was more akin to teaching an A ticket class, because he would come in to us like, okay, just get to work, and then you just go and sit in his office for like 10 hours. It was like, well, come on, man. We don't know what we're doing. You got to help us. What if an acetylene tank explodes? I don't know.
Then you get the fuck out. I don't think it would take a teacher telling you to get the fuck out to just get the fuck out.
Blows up. You're sitting there with shrapnel in your flesh, and you're on fire. Ah! Ah!
It's like,
what do I do? Like, what do you think you should do? Oh man, I remember actually. At the beginning of the course, when he took us outside, he showed us the canisters holding all the different kinds of gases, and those canisters are so highly compressed. He said they're basically torpedoes, essentially.
Yeah.
Because he said, you see this, if you knock this over and the valve breaks and it starts flying off, and he pointed towards the trades building, he said, it'll go through that wall, that wall, that wall, that wall, that wall, across the street, into that apartment complex. We're like, good God.
Jesus.
Because they're so highly pressurized, they would actually go through multiple concrete and brick walls before stopping. That's a frightening thought.
Yeah, that's insane, dude. Holy
so
fuck.
Needless to say, I was very, very nervous around those things. There have been fewer. The only things I've been more careful around than those tanks were infants. It's the only thing that comes even remotely close to me being at that level of carefulness. Carefulness.
Yes.
I think I just had a stroke.
That word.
Stroke of luck!
Yeah.
And I think that is getting too near being of the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And so, as per the request of my lovely cousin, we didn't know what to do for an outro last time. She said, "Hey, Kelly should eat a cookie," and I don't see any reason why you shouldn't join me in those.
I forgot. Yeah, your cousin recommended that we just for some reason eat cookies at the end of the podcast, which doesn't make sense. But
so we got some ginger snaps here.
I fucking love ginger snaps.
As Rhett and Link would say,
dink it
and sink it.
Mm.
What? This is really fucking good ginger snaps.
Yeah, that's kind of gross, Kelly. You really should not do that. Just fucking chuck the whole thing in his mouth at once. That's gross, bro.
Excuse my Viking manners.
Dude, you're seriously, why were you roommates?
Because I'm Hitler.
No!
Bye!